Most people would have stopped them. Most people would have shouted. Most people would have rushed to court the moment construction began. But Ethan Hale did something different. He watched as strangers poured concrete on his land. He waited as roads were carved, homes were raised, and families moved in. 96 houses, all built on land the HOA never owned. And when the last home was finished, when the HOA thought they had won, Ethan quietly walked into court and pulled out a deed they never saw coming. This is the story of patience and the most expensive mistake an HOA ever made. The quiet land they ignored. Ethan Hale had always believed that land remembered the people who cared for it. The 48 acres outside town weren't impressive to most. No lakefront view, no paved roads, just rolling grass, a few aging oak trees, and fence posts that leaned the way old men did, tired, but still standing. Ethan's father used to say the land didn't need fixing. It needed respect. After his father passed, Ethan kept the land exactly as it was. He paid the taxes on time, walked the perimeter twice a year, replaced broken fence wire when storms came through. He never rushed to sell, even when developers called with eager voices and promises of easy money. Some things, he believed, weren't meant to be hurried. That belief was shaken the morning he noticed the orange survey flags. They stood in a crooked line along the far western edge of the property, bright and out of place against the green. Ethan stopped his truck and walked closer, boots sinking slightly into the soft ground. He followed the flags for nearly 100 yards. They weren't marking a boundary, he recognized. A few days later, the sound arrived, distant at first, like thunder without clouds. Engines, metal, motion. By the end of the week, heavy machines were clearing brush just beyond the tree line. Ethan made phone calls. Calm ones. The HOA office answered politely. After he gave his parcel number, the voice on the line paused longer than it should have. "Oh," the clerk said finally. "That area is part of an approved residential expansion." Ethan corrected her gently. She assured him it would be reviewed. Nothing happened. Letters were sent. Emails followed. Certified mail receipts came back signed, but unanswered. Meanwhile, the land changed. Soil was carved open. Gravel roads appeared. Stakes turned into foundations. Neighbors asked why he wasn't angry. Ethan wasn't angry yet. He was listening. One evening, as machines shut down and silence returned, Ethan unlocked an old metal box that had belonged to his father. Inside were documents yellowed with age, neatly folded, tied with twine. He ran his fingers across the papers and felt something steady beneath his worry. They were making a mistake, and they didn't know it yet. The HOA's confidence. The HOA board meetings were held in a newly renovated community center, glass walls, polished floors, and a long table that suggested authority more than it earned it. Ethan sat quietly in the back when he attended his first meeting. Marilyn Cross, the HOA chairwoman, spoke with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. She praised growth, used words like vision and progress. When Ethan raised his hand, the room barely noticed. He presented copies of his deed. His tone was respectful. Marilyn glanced at the pages, then slid them aside. "Our legal team has verified all land acquisitions," she said smoothly. "Sometimes old records cause confusion." Ethan asked for the verification. She promised it would be provided. It wasn't. Instead, construction accelerated. Signs went up announcing future homes. Utilities were installed. Streets were named. Then came the letter. It accused Ethan of interfering with development. It warned him against trespassing on active HOA property. For the first time, anger stirred, not loud, not reckless, but heavy. Ethan hired a lawyer, Mr. Calder, a quiet man who listened more than he spoke. Calder suggested immediate legal action. Ethan declined. "Not yet," he said. At night, he replayed old voice recordings from his father, stories about patience, about letting people show who they were before responding. And so Ethan waited. Let them build. Months passed. 96 houses rose where tall grass once swayed. Each one identical. Each one sold with confidence. Families toured model homes. Children ran along freshly poured sidewalks. No one knew the ground beneath them carried a history that hadn't been erased, only ignored. Ethan documented everything. Every permit. Every meeting date. Every unanswered letter. Then he opened the lockbox fully. Inside were multiple deeds, trust documents, and a boundary correction filed decades earlier, never digitized, but legally binding. The land had been placed in a family trust with strict conditions. Development required explicit consent that had never been given. Calder stared at the papers in silence. "They never owned it," he said finally. Ethan nodded. The HOA sent a final letter threatening court action. Ethan responded with a single line. "I'll see you in court." The courtroom. The courtroom was full. HOA lawyers presented zoning approvals and glossy maps. Marilyn sat confidently, hands folded. Then Ethan's lawyer stood. He presented the original deed, the trust documents, the boundary correction. The judge studied them carefully. Ethan took the stand. He spoke of letters sent, meetings attended, warnings ignored. His voice stayed steady until he mentioned his father, the man who taught him that ownership wasn't about control, but responsibility. The judge ruled clearly. The HOA had never owned the land. Construction had been unlawful. Responsibility rested entirely on the HOA board and legal counsel. Marilyn's confidence vanished. The room didn't erupt, it exhaled. Aftermath. The HOA dissolved within months. Buyers were compensated through settlements and insurance. Families were given time. Ethan offered temporary leases, unwilling to punish those who had trusted the wrong people. Part of the land was donated for community use, protected by trust restrictions. The rest remained untouched. One evening, Ethan stood beneath the old oak tree. He buried the lockbox where his father once stood. The land was quiet again. And this time it was listening. Final words. They thought ownership was loud. But the truth had been quiet the whole time.